The Houston Texans have a lot of hype going into this year, and I believe that the Texans are good enough to make a deep playoff run. But what people are saying to kind of make themselves feel better about how good the Texans could be, and their team maybe not being as good as Houston, is trying to push this narrative that CJ Stroud is going to have a sophomore slump. He's been talking too much. He isn't humble. I don't get where these narratives are coming from when CJ Stroud is nothing but humble, and he had the greatest rookie season in NFL history. I don't see CJ Stroud having a sophomore slump and him regressing when this team only got better. You bring in Stephon Diggs. You got Tank Dell coming back fully healthy. You just gave Nico Collins a fresh extension. And offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick, who is getting a couple of head coaching interviews, returns also. There's no reason to expect CJ Stroud to have a sophomore slump, especially when you think about his skill set. He's not one of these quarterbacks that his game is built around him running around, getting outside the pocket, making a bunch of crazy plays with his legs. His game is built on dissecting defenses with good decision-making, good arm strength, and fantastic ball placement and accuracy. What we saw out of CJ Stroud his rookie season was just a precursor to what's going to come this season. CJ Stroud could very well win NFL MVP this year, and he could get even better than what he was last season. He already is a consensus top 7, top 6 quarterback in the game. And 2024, he could ascend into being potentially one of the 3 best quarterbacks in this league. Even though Houston's offensive line isn't that good, with how good of a quarterback CJ Stroud is, he has showed us that he has the ability to still win games despite having to overcome certain limitations. That's what you expect out of a franchise caliber quarterback. They can win even if they don't have a tailor-made situation. I look at other quarterbacks in the league, such as Jordan Love. I think he still has a little bit more to prove than what CJ Stroud has, because CJ Stroud was way more consistent throughout 2023 than what Jordan Love was. There's no reason that CJ Stroud should have a sophomore slump this year. And I think that NFL fans at this point, if you're claiming that CJ Stroud is going to fall off, you're just preying on his downfall because either you're a Colts, Jaguars, or Titans fan, and you're just tired of hearing about everybody gassing up the Houston Texans. They're not being hyped up. The hype is definitely justified. Anytime you have a young quarterback in ascension mode, which is where CJ Stroud is this young into his career, it's eerily similar to Andrew Luck when he was with the Indianapolis Colts. Those years that Andrew Luck was winning in Indy, he didn't really have a great team around him, didn't have a good group of receivers, he didn't really have that great of a coaching staff, and he didn't really have a good offensive line either. CJ Stroud is in that kind of category. He's in that Andrew Luck tier where he's only going to get better, and him falling off, the chances of that happening are really thin. Not only that, but when you think about CJ Stroud just mentally, he's wired different. He's a hard worker, first guy in, last guy out. I don't have any red flags going off in my mind that shows me CJ Stroud is in for a sophomore slump. And it's been a while since we've seen a quarterback have a sophomore slump. I think the last recent quarterback to have a sophomore slump was Baker Mayfield, but who was he playing for? The Cleveland Browns. And at that time, the Cleveland Browns were making some coaching staff changes. They were dysfunctional. Houston isn't in that same situation that the Browns were in with Baker Mayfield. They only got better. They returned everybody on their coaching staff, which is key to a young quarterback's development. Quarterbacks that normally end up regressing are quarterbacks that have to overcome changes on their coaching staff. When you don't have stability on the coaching staff, that hurts a young quarterback's development. That hasn't happened with the Houston Texans. I get that it may be a little annoying how much attention the Texans have been getting from the national media, how much praise CJ Stroud has been getting, but he definitely deserves it. And this team definitely is worth the hype. I could see them making it deep into the playoffs and maybe knocking off the Kansas City Chiefs if they get to the AFC Conference Championship game. CJ Stroud, I trust him a little bit more late games than Lamar and Josh Allen. Although we haven't really seen too much of CJ Stroud in those kinds of situations, he's just wired a little bit more differently where he's more composed. He doesn't get rattled too often. We saw Josh Allen and Lamar late in those playoff games against the Chiefs. They just broke down. When Lamar threw that interception into double coverage and he threw his helmet on the sidelines, I knew it was ball game because mentally Lamar tapped out. I don't see CJ Stroud suffering from that same fate. CJ Stroud is one of those guys that when the pressure is on, his game elevates. He is a great leader. He's infectious. His teammates love him. I was watching one of the episodes of NFL Mic'd Up when they were playing the Denver Broncos, and one of the Broncos linebackers tried to get a little bit extra after the play, tried to shove CJ Stroud, and the whole Texans team came, and they were about to knock that dude's helmet off his head. His teammates are willing to run through a brick wall for him. When I'm looking at CJ Stroud, I see somebody who's on the rise, who has the potential to be one of the best quarterbacks of this upcoming decade. I think he is the trailblazer for the new generation of quarterbacks that are entering the league. You don't need to see somebody do something twice to know that they're just that guy. When Andrew Luck had the rookie season that he had, we didn't need to see anything further to cement that. We knew that he was going to be in for a great career. And what derailed it was him not having a great supporting cast and the Colts organization failing him. We don't see the same with the Houston Texans. They've done nothing but improve. Although the offensive line's still a question mark, they've gotten better at every other position. You bring in Joe Mixon. You bring in Stephon Diggs. The hype is definitely justified for Houston. And if you think that CJ Stroud is going to have a sophomore slump this year, you're just a hater. Get over it. The Texans are going to be a good team this year. CJ Stroud is here to stay. He's not going to have a sophomore slump.